Alright guys, we will be making this unbelievably awesome content creation and gaming workstation build. Let's dive in. Starting everything off, we've got the X570 AORUS Master, a PCIe 4.0 ready motherboard, great for upgrade paths later, and amazing VRM setup. We've got the Ryzen 3950X processor, 16 cores. It's a beast at multi-threaded applications. We've got the Trident Z Neo, 64 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM. We will overclock it to 3600. We've got the HP EX950 M2 NVMe drive, 2 terabytes, super fast. ASUS ROG Strix 2080 Ti overclocked graphics card. This GPU is a heavyweight. It will handle anything I throw at it, in Sony Vegas, in games, anything. This is the Corsair RM850 Gold Certified ATX power supply, fully modular. We've got the Chromax Noctua NF S12A PWM fans. They're all 120 millimeters. I got 9 of them. The Cable Mod extension, black-white theme. We're going with a black-white theme, you will notice. It's very nice. I like it. And we have the Kraken X570. I don't know why I couldn't say that. 36 millimeter liquid cooler, all in one. It's also got 3 of those NZXT fans on the back. Ah yes, the 011 Dynamic Lian Li, a fan favorite. This is really like one of the most highly rated cases. And I went back and forth between this and the brand new Lian Li 2. But I thought the new one was a little too gaudy. Not gaudy, just too. I'm a less is more guy when it comes to all the rainbow colors and unicorn vomit. I have some, but it's tasteful. Less is more kind of situation. You'll see. Alright, so I'm removing the filters that come inside the case, basically removing all the things that are installed by default. So, you know, it's easier for me to work within the case. For the most part, you can just use thumb screws. There are a few things where you have to actually bust out a screwdriver. And I'll get the back panel off there, get the filter out of the way. And so here is the cable management tray. I don't know, back panel. It's going to be very useful. You'll see. I will absolutely need this because I'm going to be running 12 fans. That will be 6 fans on the radiator, 3 in the back and 3 in the front in a push-pull configuration. So airflow will come into the case. 6 fans will direct into the case. 3 on the top will exhaust. 3 on the bottom will intake. So it'll be a positive pressure system, and an awful lot of air will be moving over the VRMs, over the GPU, and over everything, and exhausting up, which is really where heat wants to go, is directly up. Some will go out the side, but most up. I'm removing these trays because I will not be using SSDs. I'm just going to use that one really fast 2 terabyte NVMe, and then I'll be using 2 SATA Western Digitals, I think, like 6 terabytes each. Alright, so now let's take a look at the motherboard itself. This is just a beautiful motherboard. I mean, it looks fantastic. The VRMs on this are insane. It's basically class leading. The Extreme is more expensive and it doesn't have a chipset fan. It's arguably better, but for the money and for an excellent upgrade path, this to me was the #1 pick. When I did my research, all of the serious overclockers and people that do benchmarking with thermals are using this motherboard. And let's take a look inside the X72 Kraken. I don't know why I can't say that for some reason. And so this one's pretty simple. You see it has a mount on by default. We'll have to swap that out. And it also has some pre-applied paste. Now, I'm a different kind of guy when it comes to pre-applied pastes. For the most part, people should not remove the pre-applied pastes. Just go with what they give you. I, on the other hand, am very OCD. I've always replaced my pastes, and I will be replacing the paste on the all-in-one cooler or the CPU itself with some MX4, very, very highly rated non-conductive thermal paste. So let's open up the Ryzen 3950X 16-core processor. This thing is just unbelievable. It's very, very fast. I think it can get up to 4.7, although most of the benchmarks I've seen saw it get up to about 4.6 on a single core. And for all the other remaining cores, it's around a 4.2, 4.3 on average. Still, I mean, 16 cores running at 4.2 for a content creator is fantastic. And then if your software is multi-threaded, which Sony Vegas obviously is, that's what I use, and you pair it with the GPU, you can use the GPU to also accelerate the rendering on top of that, which is fantastic. So here you're going to want to match up this Ryzen chip with the little triangle, gold triangle. I'm not sure if you can see that in the lower left. You see that? That's dang, my camera. It's a Sony camera, won't focus. But yeah, you're going to want to match that up with what's on the board and just give it a nice little wiggle. Just make sure that it, gets in there, seats nicely. Once you're comfortable with it, you just push down that little bar, and then it kind of like, I don't know, hooks under a little piece of plastic there, and that's it. So much easier than it was like 11 years ago when I last built a computer. Let's take a look at this RAM. First thing I noticed about this RAM is it's awfully pretty, even without the RGB stuff, the unicorn vomit. I mean, it just looks nice and sleek, and they're also pretty considerable. Like, when I picked them up, I've got some weight to them. So it'll actually be a little easier to seed these into the motherboard just because they're just sturdy. They're like a rock solid. And I like the way they look. Of course, they're black and white, so they match my theme. So if I just turn the RGB stuff off, then, well, it matches everything, and that's nice. So whenever you seed memory, you're going to want to make sure that you fully seed it in. There's these clips on the left and right. Typically, you're going to open them first, and then as you seed the memory in, if it's an easy installation, they'll just sort of snap in and lock into the sides. If it's a more difficult one, for whatever reason, then you're going to want to focus on each edge. See how I'm doing with my thumbs? Just making sure that it's seated on both sides very nicely. And usually, even if the clips are in fully, I'm always going to go in and just make sure every single piece of RAM is fully seated. And I just do that because I built a lot of computers in my life. I haven't built one in a while, though. I think the last build I did was maybe 7 years ago for a friend. And I often find that the RAM is not seated correctly in machines I upgrade. So I'm just OCD. All right, so now I'm taking off this screw so I can get underneath to the drive, to the slot here. I'm going to put my HP NVMe drive, and it's a PCIe 3.0, and I didn't feel like spending a huge amount of money on the 4.0 technology for the drives because they're way too expensive, and in. Now, this is what is going to be controversial to some of you. I remove pre-applieds, and it's because I do research and I look at the watts per Kelvin. Basically, it's a ratio, I suppose, of how much the paste that they pre-apply on these things, how much heat it can dissipate. And you'll see the MX4 thermal paste that I have there. It has about I think an 8 value, and this pre-applied is around a 2.87 value. So it's almost 4 times more performant in terms of thermal heat dissipation. So that's why I'm replacing it on the all-in-one cooler, which will then be attached to the Ryzen chip. And I will also be replacing the stuff that they put on the Strix card, again for the same reason. The paste that I will be putting on there is higher quality. Do you need to do that? No. Most people do not need to do that. It is not necessary. I like having optimal performance out of components that are easy to improve before you install them into the motherboard. Also, this stuff, the MX4, it's highly, highly rated, and it's non-conductive, and it will last up to 8 years, which is really amazing. Now, honestly, I would probably come into this in 5 years and replace it again, because the additive properties of the thermal paste do wear out over time due to heat. I mean, that's just kind of how this stuff works. And you see, I'm putting in the mounts or the screw mounts for the cooler, and I'm going to replace that bracket with the one for AMD. Pretty straightforward. And you basically just turn it, and it will lock in place like that. Pretty. All right, we'll put the motherboard in, and this is so easy to do in this Lian leak case. It's just really well built. I agree with all the people that reviewed it. It's a fantastic case. Again, it's a great upgrade path. This case I probably would not change when I upgrade this rig. I'm only showing you 2 screws for the standoff mounts. I did all of them. So I installed the radiator, and this is just a test to see placement. So you see how I've mounted it, and I just put 1 fan in to start, and the radiator behind it, I decided to do the side mount because I want 6 intake on the side, 3 intake on the bottom, and 3 exhaust on the top. And I had to remove all those trays to make room for this. Alright, so this is all 9 fans, 3 on top exhaust, 6 on the side on our intake with the radiator, 3 on the bottom are intake. So that's a positive pressure system of basically 9 fans intaking, 3 exhausting. Okay, so now we're going to apply the paste. I always have used the P method, so P size, maybe slightly larger P size. And I kind of like Bob Ross this, so apologies, but again, it's just me being OCD. I paint it on. I take my time. I don't rush this. Some people just do the P method and slap it on. I get it. I'm not going to tell you that the spreading method is better, like technically. It's just what I've always done, and I feel like, to me, it's better, but I think if you go online, you look guess the star method. All right, so let's get the power supply open. It's a fully modular power supply, really nothing exciting to show here, but let's get it mounted inside the case. And this setup lets you mount 2 PSUs if you want that much power. Of course, I don't need that. You could take off the tray above it, but I'm using hard drives. So here tons of videos on YouTube for that. I'm just, I'm showing you what's in there, but I'm not gonna do that. Ah, look, wonderful 3-fan setup. And you notice there's like a ring around the fan to keep the air sort of isolated and tunneled. So that might help. Looks like I got the plastic still on the back. And we've got 2 connectors here, so the power will be a little less complicated than some of the video cards I've used in the past. Alright, so let us open it up. So we're going to take the back plate off. There's 6 screws. You notice that piece of plastic there. That's, if you tamper with this, it voids the warranty. So you have to be brave, and you have to be confident about what you're doing here. I'm not going to recommend anyone does this unless they're confident in what they're doing, but you take the 6 screws off, and then what you're going to do is there's 2 cables. You're just going to kind of press down with your fingers, pinch and pull, just slightly, don't overdo it. And they'll just sort of slide out like so. And you're going to lay them side by side, and you're just going to start cleaning. Now you can use, what I'm using here is a coffee filter, and I'm using 99% alcohol. And I'm just very, gently getting the goop off. And, the paste that they put on here, even ASUS, which is, renowned for excellent componentry, they don't use the best paste. They do not. So I'm putting my MX4 right here. Again, my spread method. A lot of people will just be like, wow, that's a lot of time you're spending for really no scientific measurable benefit. And I can't argue with them. I just do it. I've always done it that way. Again, you're going to use the star method or the cross method, I don't know, the X method, where you tighten them diagonally so you get that even pressure. And so the paste will spread evenly. And really, that's kind of it. This stuff isn't difficult. It just requires a little bit of, bravery on your part. And so there, my GPU is now set up for, according to MX4, 8 years of really good heat dissipation. All right, and it's installed. And you want to make sure you tighten this thing really nicely here. Make sure it's fully seated. And you see I've added one of my hard drives, my SATA hard drives in there. And my cable management is, I'm getting closer. You see I've loosely tied some things. I've zip tied some things. All the fan extension cables are installed now. The NZXT fans are installed. And I've got all the fans are hooked up to the CPU fan that deal with the radiator. All right, moment of truth, guys. Alright, as you can see, it's all in there. It's a lot of cables, guys. I've tucked it back though. So beautiful. Black and white. And now, the back panel. All done. Thanks for watching. Oh wait, one more thing.